Welcome to Control Z. I'm Zane Lamprey. In this podcast, guests are encouraged to take a look back at their lives and explore what advice they would give to their younger self. You hear Pumpkin in the background. I have a house full of cats, and cats will be joining us during the episode, especially Pumpkin. My guest today is Nick Jarry. Now, Nick Jarry he's my friend, but he's been opening for me since I started doing comedy again out of COVID. So our first show was on June 3rd, 2021. And 3 days ago, we shot our third stand-up special. And it was my special, but Nick opened and he also shot his set as well. So it's just interesting to look at how far things have come. The other interesting thing about Nick is that I did not know him prior to doing this. We weren't friends beforehand. But we have been traveling. We've done 366 shows together, including we shot the special twice this past weekend. So we've done 366 shows together, and we've flown to locations and driven, I think we did a calculation at one point. It was somewhere around 40,000 miles or something, or maybe even more. And when we've spent, I think, I'm going to do the math real quick, Tyler. I'm here with Tyler. Tyler is our producer. He's also a comedian, and Tyler also. You can speak if you.
I was like, I'm gonna get my moment. Just opened up with for the special as well, and I mean, if for people that weren't there, it's gonna look great. I thought the shows were incredible.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you to the brewery down in Placentia. You guys were incredible.
That we have to. Don't you feel like whenever we say that we have to spell it? Because the brewery is the brewery, as in Bruery,
mm-hmm.
and so when you see it written, it's one thing. When you say it, it feels like what brewery? Like what?
Right.
Wow. So the brewery is known for barrel aging their beers, and they have some incredible ones. Like, well, actually, I'll get to that in 2 seconds. And so the place that we shot was not like an event space. It's a space that they would like to have be their event space, but it's a barrel house. It's a barrel aging room. And Micah, who's the head of production down there, moved all of these barrels into this incredible configuration for the special with like 5 barrels stacked high behind us and around the sides. And it's something similar that we did in a previous special, in my first special called Tender Looks, at their other brewery location. But we had the barrels turned sideways, so you're looking at the circles. In this one, because we wanted to make it different, and then because Nick suggested that we do it because it would hit the lights better, we're now looking at the sides of the barrels. And honestly, it's much more pretty. I didn't think that it would. It was beautiful. So
yeah, it looked awesome. I think
it looked amazing,
like, and it really fits the like vibe of your set and like the whole I just think it encapsulated it, and it's like the perfect setting for it. You see all these like old Comedy Central specials on TV where they have like silly things in the background, like giant letters or
yes
clown heads, and you're like, wow, does this define you as a comedian in any way? And it does nothing to do with
but the fact that like we've done our show, I mean, exclusively at breweries, minus maybe 3 or 4 that we've did at a theater, and that actually weren't even like our top shows. Like we've done them at breweries, and we've done them in every configuration of space you can possibly imagine. Strip malls, like brewing. We did one at St. Arnold in Houston, and in this space right outside the brewery when their canning line was running.
Oh God!
Like it's just like, I mean, we've done. I mean, not that it didn't work out as a space, but like. Some are amazing, some are better than others, but like this one was, I mean, at the end of the day, especially the way that we lit it.
Well, and I think like a lot gets missed if you're just looking at it. You don't get to see and understand like all the work that got put into it. We were blacking out like different windows, all the lights we put up for like
all the pendant lights and everything.
It's incredible. And the fact that they were like so open to be like, do whatever you guys need, just was like a testament to how cool they were.
When we're looking at breweries to like perform at across the country, and we have like 2 breweries in a city, and one of them's like, yeah, come in, like that's, we'll have you and you can do this and here's what, and, you know, we're not gonna have everybody on site, but like you guys can do it, whatever. And then you have someone else is like, oh my god, we would love to have you guys come in. We can do this and this and this. We're like, we go there.
Yeah.
Because when there's that level of enthusiasm, is that a fucking leaf blower?
It just keeps rolling, and going and going.
Throw that on the timer. Amazing thing that happened in the background.
They said you wanted all that kind of.
I do want that. I want
to an
natural
extent,
sounds, but not the leaf blower. But like the fact that they, I mean, they were like, you guys do whatever you want. They give you the space, but then they're there to help. I mean, Micah was like, I mean, we had the scissor lift and everything. We built a stage. We brought in lights. We brought in like so many people, lighting, sound, all this kind of stuff. And I mean, I'm excited. But what's crazy about it is that I shot a special in May that still hasn't aired yet. There's just been some hang-ups about like the closed captioning and the just other stupid little things that like have taken a month to fix and then another month. And so that will come out on Amazon Prime. I mean, maybe by the time this airs, but soon enough, probably around May 1st, somewhere around there.
What a little tease for y'all.
Little tease. And so like right now I have 2 specials in the can. And then you, me, Nick, and Trent are going to go up to the Pacific Northwest and have a bunch of shows up there that will, probably have happened by the time that this comes out. The first one being like, I think April 19th. And we have basically sold out shows all through around the Pacific Northwest, like Portland, Tacoma area. Not Tacoma, Yelm, because I don't want to get robbed again. And then north of Seattle, Spokane, whatever. And so we're actually bringing all of our cameras up there, and we're going to shoot that as something else. So like by the end of like those weeks, we'll have 3 specials that are like have yet to air,
ready to go,
ready to go. And as I've been talking about with you guys, like my intention is that this is the year that this is my coming out year as a comedian, in that, like as a stand-up comic, because
so many people know you as like, it's Zane,
yeah,
the guy that I used to watch drink on television all the time,
exactly.
And he must just continue to be the guy who drinks, but not on my television,
right? Or it's like, oh, okay, I saw him do his shows. I'll go see him do stand-up. I don't know if it's gonna be funny or not, but like, if you knew, like, you know, but like if people knew the amount of work I put into it and the fact that I am like, no, this is what I do. Then, you know, when people come to the shows, they're like, oh, okay, oh, this is okay. You're a stand-up. I didn't realize this. And like the first special was 3 sheets and drinking made easy stories. The second one was a few of those. But other stories as well about my life, usually about my wife. And then this last special, nothing from Drinking Made Easy, nothing from 3 sheets, a few things from 4 sheets and Chug, some shows that I've done, but mostly other stuff. And so now as we go up into the Pacific Northwest, I have like just pages and pages of like stuff.
That's the best part right now.
I haven't wanted to like delve into it because I have a play like memorized in my head. The hour that I just did, I have it all memorized, and I don't want to mess it up with other jokes that I'm working on. Now, all that stuff, now that it's like literally sitting here on my desk in memory cards, and this is how fresh it is. I'm transferring these all to drives to like back them up. That now I can start like exploring that. And something that so Greg Fitzsimmons, who's like a very seasoned comedian, directed my last special, which hasn't come out yet. He is amazing, and directed this last special this past weekend. And he kept saying like, you can have cards, because he would like come to my shows and give me notes. So he saw a few shows and gave me a bunch of notes, and we kept making changes and like trimming things down and adding new tags and kind of like not changing the meat of the stories, because the stories are true stories, but like shorten this part, this isn't necessary, add this, let's do this and whatever. And it was kind of like, he was kind of like, how are you keeping track of this stuff? You're going to have note cards up there. I'm like, I don't want to have note cards. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's clunky, weird.
And then you told me that he was telling you that in his special, this is fucking genius. Nick, so Nick's here. Did you hear this? In his special, he projected his set list on the back wall. Oh, wow. Because you were saying,
because what he had told me was he was switching around the order so much for how he was setting up the special that he was like, I don't want to have a question in my mind of, am I doing something out of order that like the way I'm doing it, or am I going to miss things? So he's like, the list is just going on the back and it's right there. And it's so
like you
brilliant.
said teleprompter.
He described it as a teleprompter, but I think he meant like projecting it onto like the back. So somewhere or the other, it was just like there.
Do you see this on my phone?
Yeah.
That's my set list with my little notes
on your lock screen
of like tags. Yeah. Because I can hit my lock screen and then that's my set list. Mm-hmm. But I missed so many of the extra little tags. If I was able to put on the back, this is the premise. So the first one's what? Billy Zane, right? Yeah. Or Anaheim. Like the jokes they talked about Anaheim. This, and then here's this one, just like little notes. And then Billy Zane, we changed this, and then my 40th birthday story, and the things we added for that. I could have had the whole thing on the back wall the whole time. Mm-hmm. Fucking killing me.
Let's make it simpler for yourself, not harder.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't put it on cards. What am I supposed? I can't thumb through cards or put them on the ground because the cameras would pick them up. But if I had, if it was like a 10-foot projection, I could have had the whole thing, and nobody would have like cared or known. And it doesn't lead. It would have been cryptic. So no, it wouldn't have like ruined the story for anybody.
Yeah, it's not like the like end exact word punchlines are on it where they're like karaoke reading it.
Yeah, exactly right, exactly. No one would have turned around and like been like, oh, what's next, or how much. I mean, they could have looked back and been like, oh, we're on this story, so we have this much left. But anyway, so this is now this podcast where again we're rather than sitting down with someone and saying, oh, what project are you working on, which we'll talk about that a little bit, and talking about things that they've done and stories that they've told a million times. It's like we get someone on here like Nick, who we'll talk to in a second, and get an opportunity for him to just do some retrospection and talk about some changes he would have made or some things he did well. And at the end of the day, you kind of go like, if you're happy with where you are in your life, you're pretty hesitant to go back because of the time-space continuum, obviously.
Of course.
The paradox. Like, you're a little hesitant to go back and say, I would change this little thing because of the butterfly effect. Mm-hmm. If I went back and changed this one day, would my whole life be better or worse? And so that's like, you're not even old enough to have this conversation.
Yeah, I'm a child. You guys have a really great conversation of kind of like finding those like particular moments and seeing that like road of this or that. And if you listen to it, you're going to really enjoy it.
Here's my introduction to Nick. So, and I've told this story a few times. Maybe people have heard it, but it doesn't matter. It's a good story. That I was hiring a merch guy. And I wanted someone, I was like, look, I wanted someone to run merch. If it's somebody who's interested in doing stand-up, they can do 5 minutes. Even if they've never done it, I don't care. If you can do it every night, you can figure it out if it's something you care about, you're into. And so I had some people in my organization looking at like at people pre-interviewing, and they got it down to 2 people. And one of the guys has like a tie loosened up. Like, hey, like almost like a Rodney Dangerfield.
Oh, okay.
There's like photo on there. The other guy doesn't have a photo. And so but it says something about like comedy or whatever, and I was like, oh, let me get this guy. And now I'm looking at a piece of paper that I don't know or whatever. Then I think I get on the phone with Nick, and he's like, he's got a beard. The other guy also had a beard, and I was like, so you're interested in comedy? And he's like, well, yeah. I mean, I've always loved comedy. I consider myself like a student of comedy, and would you want to do some time up there? And he's like, on stage, he's like, yeah, I'd love to. And so I was like, okay. I don't even know who the other guy was.
Oh, gee. Yeah.
And so Nick came over, and he had never done stand-up. Ever. He had done some like improv, whatever.
Which is so bold to be like, you know what, I'm going to apply for a stand-up comedy job.
No, he saw this position to run the merch table.
Yeah.
And to basically like help set up the events. And so he was working on productions on set, and he's like, oh, this is just another job. Like, yeah, I could do this as some PA stuff and whatever. Like, I'll do this, get my foot in the door. So I was the one that brought up the comedy. And did you know, Nick, that it was for a comedy tour?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you say you were the one who brought up
comedy? Yeah, you think you brought it up?
Yeah, I know how it exactly went down.
Well, check out the
You know
past podcast episode
Which one is
of
it?
Campfire Stories with
perfect.
Nick because
Okay.
they do a really good breakdown. So
Good.
if you're this is your mission. Go listen to part 1 of how they came together. You get to hear a couple stories about heckling and bad shows they've had in the past. Jump forward to this one where we get a little deeper about even the farther history
That's great.
of Nick jumping to where we are
There we go.
today.
Ladies and gentlemen, here's Nick Jarry. So we're going to go back in time in your life to some moments that you would go back and give yourself advice. Where would you go? Like at what point in time?
Yeah.
Where were you at that time?
Yeah.
And what is it that you would say? And we've been talking about this a little bit. So I would imagine that like you've been thinking about it a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
But I also think about, I think like everyone else, I think about that all the time.
I always wondered if it was like me. It's something I think about way too often.
Yeah, too much is not good.
Well,
No, I mean, because you start to live in regret, and that's not good.
but that's often what it is because look, for me, I'm pretty happy where I am. And when I say pretty happy, I'm very happy with Mel. I'm happy where I am professionally.
Yeah.
I wish I was a little bit more stable, financially.
Sure.
But other than that, so like one thing I go back and say is like, oh, I would go back and buy crypto. Like, okay, well that's obvious, and so get those kind of ones out of the way.
Those are always like the lazy answers, I think. And
It is, but like I genuinely am like look, I could figure out sometimes I go back and change some things in my life, but generally speaking, I'm happy with how things went.
Sure.
Like, would I want to be like a big movie star? Because like, oh, I would wish I would have gone in here and said this and that kind of thing. I'm generally fine
all that
with it.
though is still very unpredictable, right? We think
Mm-hmm.
if I had only done this, if I had only gotten that role on Curb, it
Right.
would have changed. But we don't know that.
Right.
But I think there are things that, if you take the outcome out of it, right, and the expectation of the outcome, there's still things that I would have changed. And you're right about you were talking about, would I have met Hannah or Mel or whatever? Here's the thing. You don't know what you don't know. So if I went back and changed,
Like, what if
something-
I met Hannah and you met Mel?
Oh, that'd be a lot better. I think.
I agree.
Because then you'd get to experience Hannah. See what I did? A little flipperoo there.
I'm not really sure.
Mel sucks. No, I'm kidding. I love Mel.
So
But
let's go back to the first one.
Well, what I'm saying is, I think I'm just laying out the parameters, like you're saying. Like, if I'd made a decision when I was 17 and I never met Hannah, I know now that would suck.
Yeah.
But I would have no frame of reference. So this is why I'm okay with the hypotheticals.
It's all hypotheticals.
Because people always resort to the same safe answers of like,
Yeah.
oh, but then I wouldn't have met. Well, you wouldn't know that you wouldn't have met, so we're fine.
Yes.
So one thing, the first one that jumps out to me is I had an opportunity to move to New York City and like start working in aviation. It was I got an offer with American Airlines, and it was going through all these hoops.
What year is this?
This would have been 2011, probably.
So your late 20s.
Yeah, mid to late, I guess.
Okay.
And I love New York, and I do regret that
You
had
passed
never
on
moved
it?
there. So I accepted it, but
Okay.
then I was kind of being pulled through some, I had to go through all these like hoops and stuff to get the job. And in the midst of that, another job opportunity came up that paid more. This is where I feel really disgusted.
I see.
It paid more,
How much more?
like 3 times as much.
Oh God.
But it kept me in Washington State.
Okay.
And I was like, I was at a place in my life where I was like, I could really use the stability. I was bartending. I had just gotten done with school.
Yeah.
I was like, I could really use the stability. So I opted to take that. I told
it's far enough back in time where we can say like, this is like, in the movie when you get a job offer and they slide you a piece of paper and you look at the money and they never tell you in the movie what it was.
Yeah.
What was the money?
at the time. I think it was like $80 a year.
Was the offer? For New York?
No.
Oh,
if
I
it was
see.
no, I would have.
Okay,
no
got it.
question.
Got it.
The New York one was not much. It was
Okay.
like basically minimum wage.
Okay.
I would have been working as a mechanic in New York City, a jet mechanic for like, it was like $14.50 an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was willing to do that. I was really willing to do it. And because I had to like do all this like interview stuff, and then there's like some drug testing, and like the process was taking so long that in the interim, I got another offer for like, it was like 80 a year, with Sikorsky helicopters. And, I was like, I gotta do that.
You know, it's interesting.
And I didn't get that either. But.
So you and I think we've done this like math where you and I have done about 365 shows together. And for each show, we spend probably an average of like 2 hours, maybe 3 hours on the road, driving to and from and all this kind of stuff. So I don't even know what the hours comes out to, thousands of hours. And so I know a lot of these stories. Like I know this one, right? But what's interesting to me is where you are and how happy you are where you are. And that the first one that came up was a mechanic job. Like, what if you would have taken the one in New York? Does that lead into comedy? Or
I
is
would
that
like to think so, but
okay.
That, you know, for backstory for anyone who doesn't know this, like I still struggled with. I don't even know if at that time I was thinking about doing comedy, to be honest.
Right.
I think I was just ready to have like a career and some actual grown up.
Like, what if you went back? Okay, so you're call it 27 years old. You go back and you're 27 years old, and you tell yourself, focus on comedy.
Yeah. Again, I don't think that was. I don't think I was looking for that yet. So I think even that version of me would have been like, "What?
Okay,
you're talking about comedy?" Like,
okay.
You know, I was pursuing what I thought I was passionate about, which is like I love working with my hands, and yeah. So it would be interesting if I could go back and tell myself, like, listen, because I guess we're assuming our younger self would pay attention and actually.
I think the parameters of this exercise is that you wouldn't have to go back and convince yourself that you really are who you say you are. You're not changing the things that are positive.
No, but I'm saying I don't know if a younger version of me would have listened to me.
Look, I have those same thoughts about me going into comedy when I moved out here when I was 23. The problem is, I don't think I was unique in this. I was a little unique in that I kind of thought I knew everything, which I don't think is terribly unique for a 23-year-old. And I didn't have a lot of life experiences to pull from. And I was talking to Greg Fitzsimmons. So we just shot my stand-up special, and Tyler and Nick also shot theirs as well Saturday, which today is Tuesday, so it was like 3 days ago. And I was talking to Greg Fitzsimmons, who's a very established comedian, and there's a story about he was I heard he posted Joe Rogan was talking about how he was at a show one time and Greg was making fun of a guy in the audience. The guy came up, punched him in the face, and they fought this guy. Yeah. And I was kind of talking to him about that, about like I would have definitely gotten in trouble with things that I said, because even doing the comedy that we've been doing for the last 3 years, I've had to learn how to soften things and how to like speak and like with people. And even though like when I'm making fun of someone, like we make fun of each other, you know that it's coming from a place of love, and you know that it's just in fun. But if you do that with an audience member, maybe they don't quite know yet. And so I've had to like learn those things. And then the other thing is politically, like getting into the comedy system and all that kind of stuff. I just don't know if I had it in me to work those politics. Yeah.
I think I would have definitely done better younger for all those reasons you just said. I would have been more bold. I would have been more, I think I would have gone after things harder. I probably would have pushed the envelope a lot more.
Do you think, like, don't you wish that you would have started comedy when you were 20?
Yeah, I mean, now in hindsight, I wish I did, but I didn't. When I was 20, I didn't have any interest in doing comedy.
Right.
I was a piece of shit. I used to like go to comedy shows and heckle.
Yeah, I know.
Like really not cool.
Yeah.
Like I was a total asshole. And so I.
How would you do against that guy?
How would I do now?
Mm-hmm. No, you.
Yeah.
Knowing, like, doing how well, and we talk about this all the time. I think you have come an incredible distance. So like, again, people who don't know, we started doing stand-up June 3rd of 2021. It was like the first show outside of COVID. And I had done about 90 shows, actually probably about 130, 150 stand-up shows when I was doing Drinking Made Easy. But for almost all of them, I had like a screen. So I was doing more of like a funny TED Talk. Mm-hmm. And so you and I started at that point, and you had never done comedy before. Mm-hmm. And I feel that you just continue to grow at a very healthy pace. So, and I think you have a very good confidence and command of the stage that you didn't have like when we started off, you know?
Sure, yeah.
So how would you do
Yeah.
if young Nick came in and was giving you shit?
The thing is, I don't know that I would do well against it, because I think a younger version of me would have been able to go after that a lot harder. I'm just being honest.
I think you would have smoked him. I think you would have.
I'm not that clever anymore. I'm like, I'm just being like sincere. Like, if we've never had that happen, we've never had somebody. I mean, Bend, Oregon. You saw how I handled it, and it wasn't well.
You didn't have. Okay, that was different. That was a on Cinco de Mayo. And that was a crowd who was doing shots, and the crowd was unruly. If you had a good crowd, like think about Centennial, Colorado, which we did about a month ago. So that crowd was an amazing crowd. If there was someone in that crowd who decided to heckle you,
yeah,
I don't think there's anything clever about it. You would just turn to the guy and you would have said, "What are you doing?" You know what I mean?
Well, I would have addressed it, and I would have addressed it confidently. What I'm saying is, like, you know, when you see all these clips of like comics like handling hecklers and they just shut them the fuck down, and like, I mean, really, like, just boom, they nail them. I don't know that I have that mechanism, but I wouldn't have been on my heels, and I certainly wouldn't have gotten like angry the way that, you know.
But those are highlight reels. You know what I mean? That's someone who just catches the ball in the perfect spot and does this killer dunk that he could never do again.
Yeah.
Like those kinds of, like, when you see people doing those and they shut it down, that's why they posted it, because they're like, I can't believe I was that clever.
Exactly. I'm saying I think I would have just wanted to like tear that person down, but not. It wouldn't have been. When it comes to like zingers and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I'm not good at roast comedy. I tried once with my friend Justin, and it was humbling.
Yeah. It's also it's just different in a comedy club. I think you've had some zingers. All right, so I think you've had some zingers, and I think you've handled some people well. I mean, the last one that I had was not really a heckler, but kind of a heckler when we were in that place in South Carolina, and that guy had said something. He just yelled something out during my set, like trying to like make the joke. And I just turned to him. I was like, "Are we done?" He's like, "Until the next time." And I was like, "Really?" And I just stared at him, and he just goes, "Okay." You know, like, so it's just it's like everyone was looking at him like, "Bro, you're slowing the show down."
Yeah.
So
yeah, we would do. It was a weird way of heckling too, because it was like me and like two of my friends I can think back on, and we would just laugh when there wasn't laughter. Mm-hmm. In a very mocking way.
Exactly.
And it's just like really shitty things.
Yeah.
But it's like I look back on that like, yeah, I was a kind of a piece of shit for doing that. But I would never obviously do. Do
you think that the comedian knew?
Oh yeah.
And the comedian didn't address it?
No, and that's I also look back on that and like, why didn't they shut it down? Because it was pretty obvious what we were doing.
It's kind of like this bully mentality. Is that a lot of times a bully sees someone that's weak, and they, like, subconsciously what they're trying to do is make that person strong. What they're trying to do is like get that person to stop being weak. You know what I mean? And
Maybe.
if you went to see a comedy show in Tacoma,
yeah, it was all in Tacoma.
Was it in Tacoma or was it in Puyallup?
No, it was in Tacoma.
Tacoma, okay.
Didn't have comedy.
Okay,
no.
So Nick grew up in Puyallup, which is just outside of Tacoma. So you're going to see a comedy show in Tacoma.
Yeah.
Those people are generally not very well equipped. We've seen a lot of local stuff.
I look back on it, and I think some of them were, some of them weren't, but they weren't like nobodies. I think they were people who were probably from Seattle or like traveling through. I think what it is they just. I don't know. Again, it wasn't every time we went out. We went every Tuesday. It was this place. It wasn't even a comedy club.
But isn't it interesting that you had an interest in comedy?
I loved. I love comedy. I've always loved comedy. I'm saying that the interest to do it was not in me when I was 20 or even 25. Probably.
Yeah, but maybe it was. Maybe, I mean, that was your insecurities about you not being brave enough to get up there.
That's right. Yeah. So I was getting at, it's like, I think what it was like, I was looking at them doing something that I probably felt too scared to do. Even if I wasn't consciously like, I want to be a comic.
Yeah.
It was like, I saw them doing something vulnerable and daring, and it was way easier for me with my shitty friends to just try and make them laugh. And I love doing that still. Like,
you burn out their candle. You blow out their candle to make yours burn brighter. So you basically, is
that on a calendar?
Yeah, that's it. Well, what you're basically, you're trying to chop them down a few notches in the process, raise yourself so that you feel like you're on it. Yeah, so you feel like you're on par with them.
Because I was always funny growing up. I was always like clownish and whatever.
When did that stop?
Probably when I became an adult. Yeah, for sure. Once I realized that the world is bleak. No, and I think, to see it being done in an art form was like, I don't know, I couldn't process it. Yeah. But to go back and talk to my 27-year-old self, who probably around that time was interested in comedy. Actually, I'm almost positive in doing it. Sorry. I still think I would have been like, I don't know if I would have listened to me. I would have heard me and been like, oh, you got it. But to take action, like it takes some weird.
How old were you when you did comedy for the first time? 37 or 38?
Wait, how old am I now? I'm
40.
So 38.
38.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you went back and you just gave you some advice to your 27-year-old self. All right. Let's go back further.
Okay.
Where are we going?
What would I like tell myself to do differently?
It can be something that happened. It can be professional, personal.
Man, I think, I used to, ironically, do a lot more performance stuff when I was a kid. Like, very playful. I was always in, like, plays. And I remember one summer, probably just to get rid of me, my parents put me in some, like, summer program. And I don't know, it consisted of a lot of different activities, but one of them was like, we had to put on a play and then perform it at the end of the summer break. It was probably only like a couple weeks long, but I loved it. And I wanted to be an actor. I wrote Steven Spielberg a letter. Okay. And I got a response, which I know 100% was my mom. There's no question about it.
Never a mail?
There's no question about it.
My God.
She wrote the response.
And you don't still have it.
No.
Isn't that a shame that at some point you're going through your stuff and you're like, this? You threw out a letter from Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
With hearts dotting the eyes.
Exactly. But I would have. I wish I would have stuck with that. Not just not because it would have impacted where I'm at now, like, and I would be more performative or whatever. But I think it was a part of me that I let go of, the playfulness. And in my early 20s, I was like, I don't know. I wasn't angry, like aggressively, like Fitzsimmons, probably was. I mean, he's getting in fights with people in clubs. But I think I just like, it started like the sort of trajectory of me looking at the world kind of cynically. And I think a lot of that has to do with, I stopped being playful. I stopped being, it became more
that's kind of what happens with adults. And that's one of the things of like, I think about that my dad, I just turned 52 today.
Oh yeah. Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you. And I believe that my dad died when he was 51, 52. So I just have to do the math, but I think it's pretty close to, it was right between 51 and 52. And I just kind of think about, he had a brain tumor, and I think, I think about like, was it the stress he was under? Did he not have a release? He didn't play a sport. No. He didn't work out. He went to work and he did his thing, and he had his own business, which an elevator company with him and his partner who didn't agree quite often. And he would come home and all we did was work. Every weekend was a project. And if you would just pray for him to be on a business trip, because then if he was away and the weekend came, my mom would be like, go play, and you're just like, ah. And so I just kind of think about those things. So I try to like exercise so I have a release, keep my blood going. I try to like have humor always be a part of my life, and I try to do what I want to do rather than do what I feel I need to do, to kind of like live longer. And I think when you get to a certain point, like the responsibilities make you stop playing. But one thing that I was thinking about the other day is this interview with you will probably be, I'm getting to that, Pumpkin, will probably be one, like the interviewee who I probably know the best, just because you and I, we have no problem sitting in silence in the car, but we very, very seldom do.
Right.
I think a lot of times is because we're also trying to kind of, we know that as the passenger, it's our job to entertain the driver, keep them alert, and just kind of like whatever, not just be on our phone or whatever. But I know that you've said at times that like you have no interest in being like an actor.
I have no interest because I have no ability to do it. And I'm not just trying to like be hard on myself. I've tried it. I'm still trying. I have a commercial agent. I emailed him yesterday and was like, I don't know if I belong in front of the camera. Can we do anything like in the voice world? Because I'm just like, when the camera, I just don't have that thing that the camera loves, and there's an interest for sure, because again, I really am now trying to get back to a playful, stand-up is great. I did improv. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, acting is, I'm not.
I was thinking about like why a lot of, so I'm watching like the Steve Martin documentary. Have you seen it?
Not yet. I'm going to start it.
It's very interesting. Part A is all about the history, like from when he's, 0 to like 30, and then he quits everything or whatever, right around that age. And then it goes to now. It almost like skips like the middle stuff, and it's kind of interesting. I thought the first one, it's a documentary in 2 parts is what it's called.
Okay.
And the first one was like he did comedy, and he's basically talking about the fact that he did the same act for 15 years. Tweaked it, tried to improve it, but like that's what he was doing. And then at the end, he's just like, I'm done. Like there's nothing left. There's no magic left in it for me. And so he wanted to become an actor. And so he did an amazing transition. But I was thinking about like how a lot of comedians become actors, and especially that used to be like the farm club for sitcoms, as they'd go up to the comedy clubs and just see who was there, who had it dialed in. But think about the fact that you're doing a performance every night. You have to keep it conversational. You have to keep it fresh, and you're changing things up in order to, like, every night we're making little changes to, like, that's acting. That's acting. We're doing a play. You're doing a monologue every single night.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think again, it's more about the camera, and I don't know, because you're talking about different camera angles and you get in tight, and like I don't emote the way that. But
that's not the actor's job. The actor's job is to just act and let everybody else worry about where the cameras are and stuff. You just need to be.
No,
in
I'm saying
moment.
Like the way I understand that. I just mean like when I look at, like, I've done it before. I've done it for friends. Stuff.
Show me, like, do something right now. What can you do?
Yeah, that's the other thing. Is on command. I'm like total shit at being on command. So thank God we live in a world right now where auditions are done at home.
Oh my! I used to go into the audition room. So this is Pumpkin meowing at birds outside the window, just letting people know. And so he's talking
exercising his instincts.
He's talking to the doves. Thanks. I would either crush auditions or I would choke. Hosting auditions, I would crush because they were conversational. They were like in my wheelhouse. I knew what I was doing. Whenever I went in to do like a scripted back and forth. Yeah. Before I walked in that room, I was having all these ups and downs, and when the door opened, my heart sank, and I just was like, I was so bad at auditions. I knew that I was good when I got on the set and was able to do things. I did enough acting where when we were in there, I was not nervous in the scene, but in front of the casting directors who were staring at you, I would always like choke. And if I was able to put it on tape like people are doing these days, I think I would have a real shot. Yeah, well, and you're probably right. And even when I can do 20 takes of, a 30-second script,
it still doesn't turn out well. So that's what I'm saying. Is like, I don't even, if I was in person and they only gave me 2 tries, usually you do one and they're like, all right, maybe if you're lucky, they're like, well,
in person,
do it again.
Oh yeah.
I don't think I could do it. I don't think I would ever get booked for anything. I haven't been booked for anything, even with self-tape. So, yeah, that's the thing. Is like, there's an interest, and I think it would be really fun. And I was part of an acting class during COVID. It was a bunch of my improv people. We went through a teacher, and doing the scenes was good, but it was all through Zoom, which is just a fucking nightmare because you're looking at the person, so nobody's actually making eye contact.
Right.
And the timing, and there's no vibration, there's no energy. You know, it was awful. But
so another time you'd go back and make. Well, again, it's advice. I say change because I'm thinking about it in certain things, but when, like, I know certain things like that I think people will say in this situation, but now go back to a younger version of yourself and go back and tell them something.
Yeah, well, so again, it would be to continue pursuing those playful exploits, because the thing that's innate in me is that I'm not cut out for.
But what's a moment? Think of a moment. Think of a moment where you approach something in a non-playful way that if you would have done it differently, the result would have been different.
An exact moment is really hard to pin down. I think what started happening is my motivation became about how do I like make money, and that's so against type for me, like that. I changed gears, so I was trying to start like a car washing business. So maybe that's what I'd be like. Take all this money that you're about to put into this car detailing, rather, and go do an acting class in Seattle.
Okay,
it would have been something like that.
Okay,
not because I would expect to be a famous actor, but I think it's more in me to be in that world of just. This sounds so douchey, but like creativity and like just abstract thinking. That it would have served me better to start earlier, and maybe I would have found a place in that. And I don't know where that would have been, but
this is also about this is Scooter.
Yeah.
So this is also about like things that you did that you would go back and tell yourself, "Hey, good job." You know what I mean? And so again, knowing you as well as I do. I'm assuming that you going and doing, was it Second City that you did?
UCB.
Upright Citizens Brigade.
Yeah.
So that's an improv group, and you talk about it a lot, very fondly. And so that's something that you did is that when you started to kind of get back that playfulness?
That was like, I had to thrust myself back into something because I was working production jobs, which was fine. I enjoyed being on set and all that. But I was at a place, when it happened, I was in a post-production job working for somebody that I could not stand. Just the coldest, like least personable person I've ever met. And I'm stuck in an office every day with this guy. And I was like, I felt suffocated. And so I was too afraid to like take the plunge into stand-up because it's like spotlight and singular person on stage. And somebody that I worked with happened to be, she did UCB in New York. And she was telling me about improv and how fun it was. And it was like, it's a team thing. And so the pressure is off because now it's like you all live and die collectively. There's a support system built into improv.
The community.
And also there's an understanding by the audience because they know that it's being made up. So there's like a built-in forgiveness. Whereas stand-up, it's like, make me laugh, clown. Like, what do you got for us? Yeah.
There's a reward system.
Yeah.
That's a little bit more forgiving based off of the information.
Yeah, and improv, like bad improv is still hard to watch.
Sure.
But I think people at least understand, all right, they tried.
Yeah. Do you go do you go and watch improv?
Not anymore.
Yeah.
I used to go every night.
Oh, okay.
That's the thing.
When you were in that, when I was
in it, I was.
What about before it or after it?
No.
Yeah.
I haven't been back since. No.
I personally would much rather go and see a comedian than an improv group.
Sure.
Like I when I was 18, I was in Syracuse, and Wise Guys Comedy Club had an acting class that I don't know if it was I don't remember if it was a weekend or if it was like multiple days, whatever it was, but I was just kind of confused about how to approach it. And for me, I think as most people think about, it's like it just started off as like fart jokes. You know what I mean? It's like it's
for acting class.
No, for stand up.
Oh, got
for stand up.
Yeah.
I for me the acting was I acted as a kid, and I was in musicals, and I was doing very well in Syracuse. But then when I got to middle school, is when it was like that's when I cared so much about what guys and girls thought about me, and didn't want to be like, in the acting class, and because it was just the stigma, and
what? That it was gay?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Then it was just like, oh, you're acting fag, and it's just like, okay, well, okay, no, I don't do that. I know. I mean, that's part of it, but there were people that that still did it in Syracuse, and there was a guy, Mark Krassenbaum, who's now Mark Casson. He's an actor, and I was in plays with him, and he's out here. He's I think he's producing now, but he had a good run as an actor, and he just did it because he wanted to do it. And that was the thing. Like, if I went back, I would just tell myself, you'll never see these people after high school. Even your best friends, you're going to see so seldom after high school. Do what you want to do. I would have definitely gone. I had an opportunity to study abroad, and I didn't do that. Like, we always had exchange students at our house.
Yeah.
And so we had like first pick. I could have gone anywhere in the world for a year as an exchange student. Oh, I don't want to leave my friends. My stupid fucking friends. It's so stupid.
I talked to 0 people from high school. And if I talk to anybody that was from that time of my life, it's not like we were high school friends that remained high school friends. It's because we live in a world where you can reconnect with anybody. So there's a few people that, like, sure, I was friends with, and then we now follow each other on Instagram, but we're not like hanging out.
Here's the other thing too.
They're so unimportant.
Yeah. I talked to 2 today because they just texted me happy birthday, right?
Yeah.
But like, so there's 2, Mark and Jeff I talked to, but if I would have gone to France for a year or 2 years or 3 years, I still would have come home eventually. And guess what? We would have picked up right where we left off. And so there's that. I would have gone abroad, and then I also would have continued to do acting. And I think about, like, if I had a dream of what I would do after high school, to either come out here and do stand up or try to get into like a really good acting program like Yale or NYU, or just one of those really prestigious acting programs where, but again, I don't know if in my brain I was ready for that level of work.
Yeah.
Because it was play, right? Like, you were in a play and you went and did it, but now in college, you have a lot of responsibilities and the competition, and I don't know how I would have done.
Yeah, I think the way that it would have impacted me now is that I would have done the struggling part a lot sooner, and I think, just given what I know about myself, I would have found something in the world. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I would be an actor today, or if I'd be a stand-up with much more experience or whatever. It doesn't matter. I know I would be further in something that mattered to me at 40 years old now, because now I'm sort of resetting everything. So the struggle, I'm living through the struggle part now, which is fine. But I think I had the energy and the tenacity and the sort of, I was more equipped to handle it back then. And I wish I would have done that, because I was sort of coasting. I was following jobs that were paying me all right. Yeah. And just hanging out with my friends. Yeah. And I have some fun memories, but I was, at some point I decided I need to like have a career and I need to make money. And it just isn't part of my buildup to like, for that to be the motivator. Mm-hmm. And it never was, but I was trying to force it. Yeah. I was trying to like, no, you're going to build a business. And I was going to be an entrepreneur. I'm not an entrepreneur. I need to just follow what I care about and what I'm, moderately talented at, and let it, I'm okay with letting it just sort of build from that.
Yeah. I mean, I had a time when I after high school, I just didn't know if I wanted to go to college, and then my mom made me, and thank God, I wouldn't have gone back to the same college that I went to. I went to State University of New York, College of Cortland.
What do you think you got out of going to college that is so valuable right now?
It was kind of the ability. Scooter, am I in your way? Because we're in the middle of a show here, bro. Sorry, my cat. For those listening in audio, my cat keeps. Well, there's several cats that keep. Yeah, there's a lot of cats here. There may or may not be 8 in this house right now, which is pretty low. What did I get out of college? That's a great question. I think that there's something in the brain, especially at that age, that teaches or conditions your brain to seek out answers, to acquire knowledge, to try to think outside like the box. And so I don't look back at any of the classes that I took and say I learned anything in any of those classes, but it was kind of the way that my brain learned how to deal with the information and assimilating it and learning what I was interested in. So like at the end of the day, I'm glad that I went. Mm-hmm. I feel like if I would have gone someplace else, I don't think I was ready to go. I probably should have gone. I mean, I was going to take like, what do they call it when you have a year off? A gap year?
Oh, yeah.
I was going to take a gap year, and my mom was just like, no, you're going. If you take a gap year, you're gone. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Especially if I took a gap year in Syracuse. And I don't mean to piss on Syracuse, but like, it's not like...
Oh, I'll piss on Syracuse.
Yeah, it's not where dreams come true. You know what I mean? Like
we were stuck there for 5 days, and I was like, get me the hell out of here.
There's nothing. There's just nothing to do there. And
I say that because I came from Puyallup.
Yeah, which is the Syracuse of...
that's what they call it.
Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
It's just, it wasn't like... There wasn't the push to like do more, to be more, to like artistically and that kind of thing, and so I knew that I needed to leave. And for me, Syracuse, it's 4 hours north of 4.5 hours north of New York City, and that's always where I thought I was supposed to go, just because it was closer.
See, that drives me crazy that you grew up that close to New York City and you didn't live there. Because I've been obsessed with New York forever.
I've been, you know those like those PSAs, those like after school specials to scare kids away from drugs. Mm-hmm. Well, those worked on me. I was scared of drugs, and we got a lot of our networking, like especially like the programming that would come on after school, like from 3 until 6 or 5 or whatever, was like programming from New York City, and it always just seemed too like gritty and scary to me, and I was scared. I was scared of it. Yeah. And I remember the first time I went to New York City, and this would be like as maybe like a sophomore in college, and we get there by train. And I take up the escalator and I leave the subway, and I'm right now in the middle of Manhattan, and I'm wearing sunglasses. And I'm just kind of looking around like, whoa, this place is amazing. And some guy looks at me, he goes, what are you looking at, faggot? I was like, I wanted to go back in that escalator.
Dicks. I'm looking at dicks because I'm
just leave. I'm like wow, this is and by the way, what was it on my stupid face that made
no, you get that a lot, I guess.
Apparently, I've never like been to New York where someone's ever said that to me, but I don't know. I think it was just dumb luck.
Yeah.
It's just
stupid. So then you're like, everybody who lives in New York is gay, and I can't do acting, and I can't live in New York.
No, it's like no. It was like, what are all these strangers seeing me that I don't know about myself or something? And like,
there you go.
am I gay? Like, I don't, whatever. Yeah. I'm still not sure.
That's great.
Okay, so if we go back one more time to a younger self, can you think of an incident? Did I share with you the incident that someone shared with me? I asked a friend of mine, and I'm not going to say his name. I'll ask him permission to tell you off this podcast. But I was telling him about the premise of this podcast, He's
like, you already told me.
Oh, okay. And he's like, I got 11 to start with. About one time he had like a Zoom meeting, and he was like, oh man, I nailed that Zoom. Yeah. And so he gets out the lotion and the tissues, and he like, celebrates. Yeah. A celebratory tug. Yeah. And had never turned off the camera.
I've never had a Zoom call go so well that I need to celebrate by jerking off. That's like,
and then how did they not know? Like, how did someone there not have the ability to like turn off his camera?
I don't know. That's wild to me.
So amazing.
I'm like,
it's brilliant.
Very ritualistic about how I do that. I don't. That would never happen to me. I'm paranoid about what browsers are open.
Oh sure.
I have tape over my.
You do? Okay.
I do not because of that. Not it's handy, but I was told early on that like people hack that shit, and I'm very much a sucker for that. I'd
be proud of the way I go about doing it.
It'd be
so how about something you did like the heckling one is kind of one of them, but is there an instance where you just did? I do dumb stuff. Literally, my stand-up is constantly about me doing dumb shit. Yours less so much, I think. I think mine's more about.
Yeah, I don't really. Yeah, but I don't do the kind of the story-based stuff as much. But I also don't know that it's also what is our relationship to the things that we've done, right? Like I don't know. I did dumb shit, but it's all anecdotal. It's like I jumped off buildings when I was, we used to kick soccer balls at cars driving by, like very jackassy before Jackass was a thing. Kind of stuff. But I don't look back on it like I wish I hadn't.
Right. Well, so tell the snowball story.
That was
But again, it's almost like you're almost happy that you did it.
Yeah, I don't regret it. Is my point. Like I shit in a hotel hallway one time, but
Are you gonna go back and tell yourself not to do that, or
no? Because it makes Tarek laugh every time he gets to tell the
your
story.
Best friend.
Yeah.
So tell the snowball story, just because I think it's funny.
My best friend, Tarek, we lived together for like 8 or 9 years, and one time we were, it was winter, it was snowing. This was in Washington, and we were drinking, and we decided we were just gonna go and play in the snow, and we were like writing things on people's car hoods, like very juvenile stuff. Yeah. Also, like, it got really personal.
You were drawing dicks on people's windows.
Dicks, for sure, dicks. Yeah. Dicks everywhere, dicks.
Can I interrupt real quick? Tell you something. Sure. When we went to Santorini, which I tell in my stand-up, I talk about Santorini, and I talk about how it's very sunny and dusty. Like, every car is covered in dust. Mm-hmm. And we were walking down the street, and it was all dusty, and all the cars are covered in dust. And every car has like 20 dicks drawn. 20 dicks,
yeah. It's our favorite thing to do is draw dicks.
You can't help it.
We just like to look at dicks. It's okay. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
And so we drew dicks. We had a roommate that we could not stand. Okay. He was he's very arrogant. He inflated himself all the time. He was just always trying to be superior. Mm-hmm. He was going to school for he was going to become a nurse, I think. And he would always come home. This is how terrible this guy was. He'd always come home and like leave his test scores out on the table. And they always had good grades, but he would do it in a way that was like, clearly he wanted us to see whatever. He would read the ingredients on the back of like shampoo bottles and like acknowledge that he knew exactly what every chemical was. He was just kind of a tool. And so I'm not going to say his name because it's not cool. But
Archie. Call him Archie.
I'm going to call him Archie. And this is how petty and stupid Tarek and I were. Is like we were writing, drawing dicks on people's car hoods or whatever. And then we got to Archie's car and we just wrote on his hood, Archie is bad at science. Like, because for some reason that's like, that felt so penetrative. Like we needed him to know like Archie's bad at science. Like, that's how stupid we were. But we found ourselves on an overpass and we just started throwing snowballs at semi-trucks. Mm-hmm. And somebody decided that the police should get involved. And so a cop rolls up, lights flashing. And keep in mind, Tarek and I are like 25. Mm-hmm. Adult men.
Yeah, right.
And the female officer gets out of her car and just the look on her face of like complete disappointment. She was expecting to see like two 12-year-old boys. Right. And she literally just got out of her car and she goes, "Really, guys? Really?" And we're just like, "Oh, sorry." And she's like, "This is why I got called down here to address two grown men throwing snowballs off an overpass." So like, I would never say that I would go back and tell myself not to do that unless something. I did drink and drive and got a DUI, and I would tell myself to rein it back.
There you go.
On that.
There you go.
I did forget about that.
Okay.
But I will say, and again, I don't want to like abuse the rules of the game, but there's weird like lessons in everything.
I know.
And I learned so much from that.
Mm-hmm.
And I got away practically unscathed. I mean, it costs a lot of money.
Let's end on that story. I know that story, but let's end on it because it's good.
Sure, yeah. I wish there was a better way to tell myself to like rein it back and not be so reckless.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what it did because nobody got hurt. I didn't get in an accident.
Right.
I literally made it from Seattle to my house. I was living in Puyallup again. With my buddies, and it's an hour drive, and I made it all the way there.
Yeah, but where were you?
I was at a rock show.
Yeah.
A rock and roll concert.
I'm forcing the story out of you right now.
No, I know. It's just like, it was such a stupid. So I went up by myself. I was supposed to go with somebody. They bailed last minute. Couldn't find anybody else. I'm like, I'm not missing this show.
Mm-hmm. Who was it?
It's this band called the 69 Eyes.
Okay.
I was very much into like Bam Margera and like his whole, camp of people. And I liked the music that, he listened to. And so like, but I went up to see them by myself. I was wearing a woman's trench coat. I don't know why. That's a detail that I have to tell. It is important, actually. I'll come back to the trench coat. So I go to the show very, I have like maybe a beer or two in the whole show. And afterwards, I decide I'm going to pop down to the bar that's connected to the venue just for one more beer before I leave. And I meet these people and we start hitting it off and having a great time. And then the band comes in. They come in to the bar, and I think I was just kind of like starstruck, and I went up to the singer and I was like, dude, like that was so much fun. I love it, whatever. And he's like, are you coming to, and I don't remember the name of the place. Are you coming to such and such bar? Mm-hmm. I was like, yeah, of course I'm going.
Yeah,
like,
right.
You just invited me to, yeah. And then I look back at these people that I had just met, and I was like, dude, like he just told us we should go. And so they get in my car. They were visiting from out of state. They get in my car. We go together. We're hanging out with the band. Just shots are just like constant. Like every couple minutes, there's just more shots happening. And it's great. I'm having a blast. And the band is super cool. Mm-hmm. And I get to talk to everybody individually. And then it comes time for us to wrap out. And it was a couple and then another girl in this group that I met. And the girl was like, do you want to crash in our hotel, like just on the floor? Because we're all drunk. And I said, no. I was like, I'll be fine. I should have 100% said yes.
For multiple reasons,
but multiple reasons. But I was like, no, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. And so I drive home, no issues. I get about 2 blocks, maybe a mile from my house.
Wow. And
what did it was I was trying to, it was those old school iPods where you kind of like roll.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I don't remember what they're called, like Nanos or something. And I'm like trying to find music to put on.
Wow.
Just to get home. And in that moment, I kind of drifted and then I corrected. I caught it and I corrected, and there was a cop behind me. So he saw like a drift and then I correct like that and pulls me over. It's pretty clear.
Yeah.
And the reason why I mentioned the trench coat is he complimented it. He said, that's a cool jacket. And I was like, thanks, man. I don't know if he was serious, but it looked really dumb. It was like a velvet woman's trench coat.
And so what did it cost you financially?
Ultimately, I mean, if I tallied everything up, it was probably like 10 grand.
Wow.
We're talking like lawyer fees. And then I couldn't drive for a year. I could either do it with a breathalyzer or not drive. They suspend your license for a whole year. So I took the bus. I had to do that. And
sorry, what's the breathalyzer thing?
So you could drive in that period, but you have to have a breathalyzer
in your car.
Yeah, that like you can't start your car without.
Yeah.
And then that costs a bunch of money too. Oh. So I just opted to not drive. Wow. So for a whole year, I took the bus and relied on friends. Wow. And it sucked, but I didn't get in an accident. Nobody got hurt.
Technically, you could have driven, but if you got pulled over, you'd be screwed.
Oh. Yeah, right. Sure. I'd be driving illegally.
Yeah,
I'd be driving without a license.
Yeah.
I had no driver's license. But the thing is like I look back on that and I'm like, I needed that to happen because leading up to it, I'm just going to be perfectly honest. It wasn't my first time drinking and driving.
Right.
I mean, I used to go out and like we have this main strip on South Hill, which is connected to Puyallup, called Meridian. It's this big long strip, and late at night, I mean, it's completely empty, and I would just go like 70 miles an hour. Sorry, Mom. 70 miles an hour, and like just like do power braking, where you pull the e-brake and like drift and all that stuff. And with my friends in my car, and we would have the best time of our lives. I was 24 years old, and at some point, that's going to catch up, and it did, and I'm glad that it did without any casualties or anything. So, yeah, how do you? I guess if I could go back and be like, listen, it's going to happen. Just stop now.
Stop now. Yeah.
I dramatically changed how I
stop this, and also stop this kind of behavior.
Yeah.
But man, think about what you learned in that year by not driving. Every time you went to not drive, you thought about it. That's good.
And it's a shameful thing.
It is a shameful thing because some people, Mel's dad was killed by a drunk driver.
Oh.
I don't know the circumstances, but some people learn that lesson in a very different way.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So I had a lawyer who had an oversized suit. And
that would go nicely with your trench coat.
Like Gil from The Simpsons, he was just like a bumbling idiot.
Let's end this with a positive story about the time that you and I got pulled over.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah. Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Honest mistake. Oh, was it?
No. Well, wait. How many times have we gotten pulled over?
I just don't remember anything. So
it was in Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And I think it was like 1 a.m. in a very small town with no one out, no one in sight.
Yeah.
And I think you just came to a stop sign.
No, it was a light. It was a red light, and I stopped, and then we were taking a right, and I took a right.
On a red light.
On a red light.
Yeah.
But I did stop.
Yeah.
But it was a light that I didn't see the sign that said no turn on red. And there happened to be a police car. I don't think any lights were on because I didn't see anybody. He came out of nowhere. I think there's I think it was something that he'd done regularly. They know they can sit there and just like pick people up. Odds are they're going to get somebody at that light. And no, but we were
completely sober.
We were sober. Yeah. We were very respectful. I mean, everything was fine. He ended up being very nice.
Well, that's what was funny about it. He pulled over. He goes, "Hey, do you know why I pulled you over?" And you're like, "Yeah."
No, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't know?
No.
Okay, you said.
He said, "There's no. That's a no turn on red." I said, "I honestly, I didn't see that."
Yeah, and he goes, "Yeah, that's okay. You know, honestly, it's not. They should probably put that sign in a better place."
Yeah.
He's
he
like,
ran my license.
Yeah, ran your license. He's like, so so you guys are good to go. Any questions?
Yeah. Do you have any questions for me?
And we're like, no. And we're like, you know, who you look like.
I think I said like, does anybody ever tell you look like? And it was some actor, and I don't remember who. And I don't remember his answer. If he was like,
he says he's gotten that before.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, he was the spitting image of Melissa McCarthy's husband. Do you know who that person is, Tyler?
Billy Gardell?
Is that his name? He was in Bridesmaids. He was the marshal on the air marshal on the plane. He looked exactly like that guy. Yeah. I don't think we invited him to our stand-up show.
The cop?
Or maybe we did.
No.
But he was just and he's like, any questions? We're like, no. He's like, all right. And we're just like, all right, cool. See ya.
I can go. And he kind of stepped away from the car. He's like, you're welcome.
It was just so like so polite.
Yeah, but we should be pulled over a lot more than we are.
On the road?
Yeah.
For doing what? What do we do?
Nick Jarry moves.
Oh, wow.
They're very illegal.
It's called a Nick Jarry.
They're safe, but they're very illegal.
I'll explain to people what it is. What's his name?
Ben Falcone.
Ben Falcone.
Oh,
yeah. So let's say that there's a road where there's a called a meridian, an island.
Yeah, it's like you can only turn right.
You can only turn right. Then you have to go down, make a U-turn, come back, and whatever. But all we're trying to do is get from this driveway, because we overshot it, to the driveway next to it.
Yeah, from one parking lot to another that's right next to us, but we would have to loop all around.
Yeah.
Nick Jarry move is you
just make a left and just go quickly. But I don't think we've ever done it in any sort of peril.
No, I'm saying it's safe. It's always safe, but it's very much illegal.
It's illegal, but it's like at 2 a.m. after a show. And we're just like, no one's around. Yeah. Okay. What did we learn?
Oh, I don't know. What did you learn about me?
I think I knew all this about you, but for me, it's I enjoy seeing you on this journey because, and again, I come back and I've told you this, I've told Tyler, I tell Mel all the time, like the special that you just did, for example, you got off stage and I was like, you crushed it, and I was telling Mel the other day, I'm like, Mel, I said, Nick belongs up on that stage, and it would certainly be a shame if he wasn't on that stage. And so I am happy that I get to be part of that journey and see you do it and see you improve, again, from the shows we did in the beginning to where we are now. And I'm just excited to where it's going. So I'm happy. So if you look back at everything that's happened in your life, the fact that you're still alive, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're with Hannah, and you're probably happier than you've been, if not ever, for a very long time. Then then everything is where it needs to be.
Yeah, for sure. And there's always the future that we're planning for, and always trying to look at like how we can get further or whatever. But I was having this conversation. I know we're wrapped or whatever, but I was having this conversation with Hannah about the other day. We were on a walk, and I was just like, I have to stop obsessing about the future. Like, there needs to be times where it's like we're just on a walk. And I'm not saying I'm not paying attention to her. I just mean like it's in my mind so much about like what are the next steps and how do we keep building. And I think it's a cultural thing. We live in this grind culture of like everybody's got to be hustling and hustling. And I don't want to lose touch with like, fuck, dude, just we live in LA. It's a beautiful sunny day, and like we can just be warm and comfortable for a bit instead of worrying about,
If only we knew they were the good old days when we were in them.
Oh right, yeah. Yeah.
And
good old days only live in hindsight.
Yeah, and we're in them.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
thanks.
Cool. Thank you,
Nick, Jarry.